Welcome one and all to the Darcblade Safari, where we take a look at the creatures that roam the lands of Monster Hunter World. In today's episode we're going to be taking a look at our first brute wyvern, Barroth, who is sometimes referred to as the landslide wyvern or simply Barry. Barroth is only found in the Wildspire Waste, wandering most of the area while marking its territory with mud. When it comes to dinner time, Barroth's special diet is not what you would expect. Its favourite meal is ants. Much like a council wanted to build a new highway, Barroth will happily demolish anthills with his jaws to get at the occupants. When Barroth is not marking his territory or shopping for his dinner, he can be found in the watery mud. Here he loves to indulge in mud baths, rolling around in it, or even bedding down in the cool muddy waters to sleep. This is probably how Barroth copes with the local weather, using the mud to keep itself cool, or simply because he has a skin condition. When sleeping, Barroth can almost completely submerge itself in the muddy bath, thanks to the nostrils located on the top of the bony crown on its head. Either way, it's strange to see a monster that normally appears to be tough, rolling around like a baby in the mud. Barroth is an imposing looking monster. With its large body, this bipedal brute wyvern's most notable features include a large bone crown on top of its skull and its tiny arms. This crown is used as a bludgeoning weapon, as well as housing Barroth's nostrils. Beneath the crown are Barroth's tiny eyes and mouth, which it really doesn't use to attack with. Barroth's body is also covered with armor ridges that can help it in fights, but also combats the hot weather to save on suntan lotion. When it comes to other monsters, Barroth likes to act tough, roaring at other monsters to make them keep their distance. If monsters or hunters take this verbal warning to heart and back off, then Barroth will go back to its docile ant hunting self. If not, then Barroth will become aggressive and attack. It's a shame though, as this rarely works out well for Barroth, despite its stature. This often results in Barroth being made the bitch of the more popular monsters of the waste. When it comes to attempting to lay the smackdown on foes, Barroth has a few tactics at hand. Normally Barroth will attempt to club, bludgeon, or concuss its foes with the massive bone crown on its head. He will also swipe at foes with his tail should you try to touch his bum. He also has a massive charge attack that can really leave a mark should it connect. You can tell when Barroth is about to go into the pain train charge by it pausing, moving its entire body into a more streamlined position, and then making a train whistle sound as it starts to charge. Avoiding this attack is advised, as medical bills could be high for victims. Barroth can also make use of its love for mud baths, sharing the love so to speak. This is done by Barroth making like a muddy dog and shaking its body, freeing the mud from its body, which result in pools of mud forming around the monster. If hunters are caught in the mud, they have to politely say no to Barroth's homemade mud baths and try to walk out of it. If you decide to stay in the mud bath, then you won't be able to attack. Also, running in these could cause your hunter to slip, so walking is the best option. Hunters should also be aware that when Barroth has recently had one of his muddy baths, then some of his normal attacks are able to generate these muddy puddles that hunters can get stuck in. Hunters will also have to be aware that this attack can potentially cause water blight, increasing your stamina usage and decreasing how quickly it recharges. However, Barroth's own brand of mud is in short supply, and he can run out mid-fight. If he tries to share his mud and he's out of stock, he'll simply shake about and look very disappointed. However, he can replenish the mud by going to the swampy muddy areas and rolling around in it. Lastly, Barroth does have a loud voice though, and when he disapproves, his roar can cause headaches if hunters don't have earplugs. Barroth's greatest weakness are its tiny arms and tail. The rest of its body is pretty strong, and this all indicates that Barroth skips arm day. The arms come with a 3-star weakness to all weapon types, and the tail comes with a 2-star rating to all weapon types. Now the arms, toes, tail, and head can all be broken, with the tail and the ridge of the crown on its head being severable. Now if you want to sever the tail though, you need to use severing weapons, whilst if you want to break off the scalp, you have to use blunt weapons. Breaking these parts will help poachers by providing certain loot. As for elements, Barroth's resistances change depending on the mood he is in. In his normal mood, he is weakest to fire with a 3-star rating. This is then followed by ice with a 2-star rating, dragon with a 1-star, and water and thunder has an X rating. However, in Barroth's Day at the Spa mood, fire becomes an X rating while water becomes a 3-star rating. As for ailments, Barroth is highly susceptible to poison, paralysis and blast. These all come with a 3-star rating. Sleep has a 2-star rating, and thanks to its bony crown, stun is only rated with a 1-star. When it comes to the plunder that Barroth yields, the rarest seems to be the Barroth scalp and the wyvern gem. Breaking the crown or head of Barroth and looting it can sometimes help you get the scalp, but as with most gems in this game, getting the wyvern gem is down to pure luck. Barroth is a little bit headstrong, and you can use some of his attacks against him. For example, his charge attack. Should he charge into one of the giant anthills, he can stagger himself or even completely knock himself out, so use this to your advantage. Also, when Barroth decides to coat himself in his muddy armour, hunters can make use of puddle pods found on water moss to give Barroth a nice relaxing bath and remove the mud from his body. Also, if you're going for any of the gold crowns, for the small one you have to aim for about the 1217 mark, and the large crown occurs at around the 3153 mark. Overall, Barroth could be a hurdle for inexperienced hunters out there, but taking a little time to learn his attacks will soon make you realise that he is a pushover, just like how the other monsters in the Wilds Bioway see him. Barroth may like to act tough, but as soon as you see him rolling around in the mud, you will see him as a goofy monster. Anyway, I hope you found this guide informative or entertaining, and until next time, I've been your guide Darcblade, bringing you a safari guide to Barroth in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.